Welcome to another F1 Fantasy Team Selection video ahead of France. We've only got another race after this in Hungary before the summer break. So if you have any chips remaining, the wildcard or the Mega Driver, be sure to use it now. You get 2 per season, 1 for the first half and 1 for the second half. And it is separated by the summer break. So be sure to use any remaining chips in either France or Hungary. If you have both chips remaining, then it's up to you how you kind of go about it. Maybe you could use your Mega Driver this week and then use your wild card heading into Hungary. That's the way to go, because you won't be able to benefit too much from gaining the price rises and the team value if you use the wild card right now when the deadline is on Saturday. But those are my thoughts there on the chips. If you want more information on how to play F1 Fantasy, be sure to check my How to Play F1 Fantasy guide, which I uploaded several months ago now. But let's get straight into this one. I'm going to talk about how I did in Austria before moving on to my plans for France and the 3 best builds, in my opinion, for this Grand Prix. Be sure to join the F1 Fantasy League. You can see the code on the left-hand side and it's also in the description. But I only scored 139 points with my main team, and I went from around 11,000 in the world, just about in the top 12k, all the way down to 72k, so probably one of the worst weekends for me personally. And as you can see, Turbo Driver on Sergio Perez, who DNF'd. He had bad luck throughout the whole weekend. On Friday, he got a penalty after qualifying ended, and on Saturday did a really good job making up those positions, but on Sunday he collided with George Russell and that ruined his race. And Red Bull were also significantly impacted by that. I thought Red Bull would dominate and probably have a 1 and 3rd finish, if not a 1 and 2 finish. It just wasn't meant to be, and if it wasn't for the engine problems for Ferrari, Carlos Sainz would have finished 2nd and it would have been a 1-2 for Ferrari. And actually I would have been really hurt by that, because those of Ferrari would have gained even more on me. So I was a bit lucky in a way, although I have Sainz instead of Leclerc. And I've been talking about the Monegasque driver. I thought he was a great choice for Austria. I thought Verstappen would win the race, but Leclerc would finish 2nd or 3rd. And Leclerc was absolutely dominant on Sunday and he did a great job. Esteban Ocon, though, I kept on recommending him and he finished 5th, and he is probably the best medium price option at the moment, even better than Valtteri Bottas, and it's very close between the two. And heading into his home Grand Prix, Esteban Ocon could once again have another really high finish, especially if there are DNFs in the top teams. And then you have Fernando Alonso, who had very bad luck. He couldn't even start the sprint race on Saturday, and that really set him back throughout the whole weekend, but still finished 10th. And Haas did a great job with Mick Schumacher finishing 6th and Magnussen finishing 8th. And they now have a race streak coming up, which is great to see. And you could even have a build with Haas as your constructor, and it allows you to have a really expensive just driver lineup. It looks really good. But I'm now going to talk about the kind of 3 best builds. Firstly, I'll show you how all 3 of my teams did side by side, just to show you very briefly. But then we're going to go straight into the team selection and I'll show you the 3 best builds for France. Let me know if you disagree or agree with any of these picks, and which drivers or constructors have we not talked about enough. I'd very much appreciate your feedback down in the comment section below. But let me show you how teams 2 and 3 did. As you can see, my first team was by far the lowest performing. My second team got 178 points. And then you look at my third team, it got 279. And Max Verstappen as the Mega Driver was the key difference there. But I also had Charles Leclerc in my second team. Imagine if I turbo drived him. I think my second team would be in an even better position. And as you can see, Ferrari were also my constructor on both occasions. And maybe I should have backed them a little bit more. I'm very surprised though. I was actually considering this and talking about the possibility of Ferrari doing even better than we expected, but I didn't expect it to happen, obviously. Otherwise, they would have been my constructor in my first team. The reason why I say that is because throughout the years, Mercedes were the kind of dominant team in the straight line, but Red Bull, who are better in the corners, were actually doing a really good job in Austria, despite the fact that Austria doesn't have that many corners and has more straight lines. So maybe it could be a role reversal with Ferrari being the new Red Bull and Red Bull being the new Mercedes, but obviously that doesn't really rely on logic. It's just looking at what's happened in the last few years and then providing a potential outcome, but I just didn't expect it. I thought Red Bull would still be the best constructor for the weekend, but both of them are great. And I think with Ferrari having a qualifying streak in France, we could actually go for Ferrari in this occasion, and they also looked much quicker in the race. But overall, I'd still say Red Bull is the best constructor in the game. Then you look at other options. Charles Leclerc has to come back into our teams, I think. He had a really bad period with some bad luck, from Monaco all the way until recently, but he kind of set things right in Austria, and I could see him building on that and perhaps closing the gap between him and Max Verstappen, but it's still quite a gap to kind of cut down on. And Haas are looking really good. So instead of Latifi and all these other budget options, although Latifi is apparently getting a major upgrade this weekend, I would probably go for Kevin Magnussen or Mick Schumacher as your budget driver, and I'd go for some of these medium price options like Valtteri Bottas, or in my opinion, if you can stretch to it, Esteban Ocon, especially in his home Grand Prix. And of course, you've always got the Red Bull and Ferrari drivers, and you can try balance it out and maybe have two of each team. And if you only have one Ferrari driver, you can have them as the constructor, and you do a really good job there of balancing things out between the best teams. But let me now go into my team selection, and for me, the 3 best builds in the game. So this is how my third team is looking like. I've activated the wildcard here. I had 2 chips remaining, the wildcard and the mega driver. I used the mega driver in Austria on Max Verstappen, and now I'm using the wildcard. I haven't really gained too much from it though, despite the 2-week break. I think the market was frozen for several days, and a lot of kind of teams and drivers were stuck. They were so close to going up, and then they've just been stuck there on around 80-90%, which has been the case for a lot of this season, unfortunately. But I am going to show you what I'm maybe looking to build for Team 3. So if we look here, I think something like this could be quite differential, but also a fantastic pick. I wouldn't use this as your main build though, personally, because I think there are better builds out there. But having Haas as the constructor, with that race streak, remember, if both drivers finish in the top 10, then Haas will get plus 10 points. And that's also a nice way of getting the funds to have Max Verstappen, Sergio Perez, Carlos Sainz, and Charles Leclerc. So you cover both teams, Red Bull and Ferrari, the 2 top teams, and you get all their drivers there, including Max Verstappen, who is so consistent. And you also get Esteban Ocon, who for me is the best medium price option at the moment. Let me know what you think of this build. It's quite different, and I actually really like it. For this weekend specifically, in the long term, I would still have concerns about Haas's reliability. Even in Austria, Magnussen was very close to retiring actually and having engine problems, but he was able to complete the race. So that is obviously very risky, but the fact that you can get those 4 drivers from the 2 top teams, as well as Esteban Ocon, this looks like a fantastic build, but only one I'd use for my third team. As things stand, this would be my second team, and I think I would favour Ferrari slightly more because of the qualifying streak they have over Red Bull. But if Red Bull looks significantly better in the practice sessions and they look really dominant, then I would reconsider, and maybe this would be how I'd line up. However, I actually 1 million under in terms of price, so I need 1 million more in order to afford this team. But those of you with much more in terms of funds would be easily able to afford this. I'm not able to though, and I have to make a compromise. So maybe instead of Esteban Ocon, I could go for Valtteri Bottas, but I have to say that certainly isn't ideal. If not, I could maybe downgrade one of Sainz, Perez, or Charles Leclerc, and I could go to someone a bit cheaper, maybe Lando Norris, for example. But once again, not ideal. If not, obviously Ferrari could be the go-to constructor, and I wouldn't really have to worry about this. And also another thing I am considering is going for Mick Schumacher over Magnussen. But for this build, I'm going for Magnussen because Mick Schumacher actually features in my first team at the moment. But this looks pretty good. In terms of the turbo driver though, I think I would switch things up a little bit, and instead of going for Sergio Perez, it probably would be Charles Leclerc if I went for a build like this. But once again, it depends on the practice sessions and which team looks dominant, and also which driver specifically is at ease in France. I'm currently favouring this build though. It's very balanced. You don't go all in on a certain team like Ferrari or Red Bull, where things can definitely go wrong with DNFs, as was the case last week with Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz. And you also cover the most reliable constructor and arguably driver this season, George Russell. Only 1 DNF in Silverstone, where he was partly at fault, as well as other drivers like Gasly. You cover 2 of the best in terms of their price bracket, so Esteban Ocon in the medium price range and Mick Schumacher as the budget. Let me know what you think the best build is, and it might be something different to any of these 3 that I've just shown you. And be sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. Let's get this video to 100 likes, it'd be much appreciated. In terms of the turbo driver though, I probably would reconsider and go for Charles Leclerc. And don't be too scared about going all in on a certain team. So if you have one Red Bull driver, but you've got Ferrari and Leclerc, don't be too scared about turbo driving Leclerc, because sometimes it's the right thing to do. So instead of balancing things out and just going for Sergio Perez to kind of cover Red Bull and in essence have 2 because you're turbo driving him, I would maybe just go for whoever you think is going to do the best. Maybe look at the practice sessions or go off your own predictions. And I think one mistake I've made this season is sometimes thinking like that, where I only have maybe one Red Bull driver or Ferrari and I go for that driver instead just because I don't have the numbers as I do with the other constructor. That's not the way to think. Just go for who you think is going to score the most points. Sometimes it's very close and luck can definitely play a part with DNFs, but that's probably the best way to go about it. Wait for the practice sessions before finalizing your team, but practice sessions aren't everything. I'm pretty sure only once this season, the driver who has won FP1 has ended up winning the race at the weekend. So that's just something to consider. And also the season before that, only 5 times it happened in 22 races. But this is a pretty good build, I think, and I'm leaning towards this at the moment. And Mick Schumacher might be, the better choice over Magnussen, and it also gives you more of a differential. It's a bit more ambitious. You can chase rank a little bit more and gain rank more so than Magnussen, who is more highly owned. But this looks pretty good. Sergio Perez, I have a few doubts about him. Recently, he's had a bit of bad luck and also made some mistakes, you could say, but mainly bad luck, I think. Let me know your thoughts about this build. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. As we just said, be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, for all the latest F1 fantasy updates and also FPL if you play that as well. Same with UCL Fantasy, content will be coming for that around August, September. And you can also join the Discord server. The link is in the description below. We can talk about Formula 1, football, and many other things there. And you can also become a Patreon or a channel member. All the links are in the description below. There's also the F1 Fantasy League, so be sure to check that out as well. Take care, enjoy the Formula 1. Hopefully it's another great race. And then we've only got Hungary to go before the summer break. And I'll see you next time.